All right, I think this is a first, recording the podcast engineering show on a Saturday.
Perfect.
Does it make a difference? I don't think it makes a difference.
You're a little bit more laid back, probably.
Right, Barry, is it a big deal for you to be here on a Saturday?
No way. You crazy?
All right, cool. You like it. And did you know Bandrew Scott is going to be our guest today?
Oh, forget it.
I'm telling you, this guy's YouTube channel, Podcastage. Anyway, we better start this thing. I've already half introduced the guest, but here we go. Oh, yeah. Yes! Oh, my God. You found the Podcast Engineering Show, probably by mistake. I don't know. Some people actually butt dial the show. I don't know. I mean, I don't know how it happens, but it does. Welcome to the show. My name is Chris Curran. I produce podcasts for the likes of Forbes and AAPD and E+ and Dun & Bradstreet and also a bunch of business authors. And every week on this show, we bring you podcast production techniques on a golden platter. That's right. We talk shop with podcast producers, engineers, and other specialists. I have a background in audio engineering in the music business. And it's interesting, my friend was asking me if I worked with a guy named Jason Corsaro back in the 90s, and I did. I worked with him on a Quicksand album, I think. And anyway, he was a kind of a cool guy, crazy guy. And he actually just passed away at 58. So, Jason, rest in peace. He actually, I think he also, if I'm not mistaken, recorded the tracks for Super Unknown by Soundgarden. He was the recording engineer for that. He didn't mix it. Brendan O'Brien mixed it. But anyway, Jason Corsaro. And back in the early 90s, he actually had a DAT player in the dashboard of his truck. He told me that. I was like, what? I was like, where do you even find that? A DAT player. Anyway, he had it in the... Anyway, I was doing a lot in the music business and got album credits. And then I entered podcasting about 6 years ago. And I realized that most podcasters don't have the fundamental audio engineering background to produce, really high quality audio. And it's cool. It's not their fault. But that's why this show is here. That's why I'm here and I bring on guests. And so hopefully everyone knows what they're talking about. And hopefully you can learn a lot. And that's what happens. People listen to this show. They just keep listening and they learn over and over and learn. In fact, the previous session, well, actually, no, because we're ahead. But I think it was the Alan Tepper session. One listener was like, he was literally taking notes. Like he literally got out pen and paper and was taking notes. So that's a good sign. Anyway, today Bandrew Scott is here. If you've been on YouTube, you've seen him. And you've probably seen I was going to mention the guy who's trolling you, but I probably shouldn't, right?
Yeah, let's steer clear of giving the trolls any validation.
But see, that's the thing. That means you've made it. So your YouTube channel is called Podcastage.
You got it.
Yeah, like podcast and then age, Podcastage. So it's
Exactly.
Awesome name. And you make so many videos, dude.
I would venture to say too many.
Every time because I'm subscribed, so every day I look in my, subscribe feed on YouTube, and it's not every day you make a video, but man, you're putting out some volume of content here.
Yeah, it's 2 to 3 videos per week, and when I buy almost all the gear, needless to say, my wallet hates me. But...
Wow, so you must have just an incredible arsenal of audio and video equipment, right?
Yeah, I think probably around 200, 250 mics at this point.
Whoa! Wait, hold on. I gotta absorb that. Barry, can you even comprehend what he just said?
No way.
Yeah. Wow.
Oh, I love Barry. Barry, how you doing today?
That's a mystery.
I didn't know what to push. See, Barry works better with yes/no questions.
Okay. Barry, are you doing well?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Perfect.
So, all right. So you also, you're a podcaster as well. You have a show.
Yes.
I think it's called...
the Bandrew Says Podcast.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. The Bandrew Says Podcast. Oh, see, I didn't. All right, now I'm gonna have to make a note to self subscribe. So you,
Well, thanks.
You do you interview folks on your show?
No, I use the podcast as just an excuse to stay up to date with all the tech news, because if I didn't do a podcast, I just wouldn't spend time doing that. So this is just saying, okay, set aside 3 or 4 hours, read up on the news, and then talk about it. It's just my excuse to throw that in my schedule.
Yeah, that's brilliant though, because you're staying on top of things and you're putting out good content. And really, what in a way, I guess what you're doing is curating like news and updates for listeners. That's awesome.
Thanks. Yeah. It's a lot of paranoia. I get a little tinfoil hatty at times, but it's fun.
Well, we're going to talk about I want to talk to you about what you're reviewing and your top picks for certain things, and also the production process you go through to actually create these YouTube videos that you're creating, because I'm very interested in that. But first, we got to do the speed round. We need to know from you. All right, you're ready to do a podcast. You got all your content prep done. You're turning on all the equipment and you're about to hit record. Just tell us briefly the signal change, starting with what space you're in, and then what mic, and then where's that going to, and then how you're recording, and then also the overview, the post-production real quick, like what software you use. So,
alrighty. So the microphone is the SM7B. I run that. I wire the entire thing with Mogami cables, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. The whole cable issue, but Mogami cables into a Cloudlifter CL-1 that runs into the DBX286S. And then that runs out into an Arturia AudioFuse into my Mac, which is then recorded in Logic Pro X. Then as far as post-production, I honestly try to keep it as minimal as possible. I just add some additional compression to level things out and keep it more consistent. And then I master to -16 LUFS because I export in stereo.
Do you have any music on your show?
Yeah, just the intro and the outro bumper are music. So
cool.
I figured I need to export it in stereo because mono music is a nightmare to listen to.
It's weird, right? Isn't it weird?
Yeah.
Like, don't you turn your head when you hear it? You're like, wait, is something wrong?
Yeah. So my AudioFuse has this mono button on it, and for about 2 days, I was like, why does everything sound so terrible? Are my headphones broken? And then I realized that I had just set the mixer, the interface to mono for phase checking. But so
right.
the music just sounded awful for a couple of days.
Very strange. Then you got guys like Neil Young. Was it Neil Young? I think it was Neil Young. He was sort of, arguing that mono is better than stereo because there's more depth or something. And I was like, well,
I don't know.
Yeah, that doesn't. I mean, I know, I understand what he's saying. Like when something is in mono, you focus more on the depth perception of the different instruments and voices and stuff. So, and when things are in stereo, it's kind of like it's almost easier because you just pan things a little bit and it separates everything. You don't have to worry about the depth. So I know what he's saying, but obviously stereo is way better.
Yeah, I prefer stereo all the time. I mean, with mono, you have to focus really on getting a couple of guitar tones that match. But if you aren't that good at that, you can just pan them left and right 100% and you're good.
I was just listening to Iron Maiden, Live After Death. What? Now that's an album right there.
Yeah.
Wow. And anyway, the guitars are panned hard left and right, and those guys, they play like harmonies and stuff, and it's pretty cool, man.
Yeah, I love Iron Maiden. That changed my life in high school. It's like, oh my gosh, you can play harmonies on guitar? It's mind-boggling.
And these guys, the YouTube channel I mentioned on one other session, it's called Lost in Vegas, this YouTube channel. And these guys, it's these two self-proclaimed black hip-hop guys. They're like reviewing and reacting to all this music and a lot of metal. And they actually listen to, I think it was, Hallowed Be Thy Name by Iron Maiden, the song. But they listen to the album version, which is so stale, and that's just a bad version of the song. Because after you listen to Hallowed Be Thy Name on the Live After Death album, you can never listen to the studio album again because
the first time I heard it was the live version, and I've gone back and tried to listen to the studio version, and it just doesn't stack up.
It's amazing, and that's why a lot of bands, when they're on tour, they'll break out they'll play new songs that literally they're not even released, no one even knows the name. They'll just play the new song just to play it live to get the feel, and so that when they do go in the studio, they'll know what feel to capture, I guess.
Right.
So that's pretty cool. So the SM7B. Now, a guy that has 200 or 250 microphones, and your mic is the SM7B, is that because you think it's the best for you?
Personally, it's the most pleasing microphone that I've come across on my voice, and because of that, it leads to the least amount of post-processing that I need to do. I don't need to do much EQ with other microphones that I've tested out. Most recently, the RE20. I know you use that microphone.
Right.
But on my voice, I've found that I have some annoying frequencies that microphone accentuates, so I would need to cut those in post. And the SM7B just kind of rolls off a lot of the air frequencies and saves me some time in post-processing.
Right. So what other mics that you've tried did you really like? And not just specifically for your voice, but in general, what are some of the best mics you think there are out there for podcasters?
For podcasters, I do really like the RE20, the RE320. I've heard those sound amazing on other people's voices. I've also heard the PR40 sound amazing on Leo Laporte's voice. For me, it did not fit my voice. It did not sound good. It just sounded like they scooped the mids out of the mic for me. So I've seen a lot of people use that microphone, though, and get great results. And I don't think stuff like the SM58 get enough play. I think that's a great podcasting microphone if you don't want to spend $400. I think the SM58 would be great for a lot of people.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good, really good mic. Years ago, when I was setting up my podcast studio in New Jersey, I wanted to get 4 handheld mics to put around a table, and I went to the music store and I literally took like 3 or 4 of the handheld mics they had in the case, and I brought my recorder, plugged them in, and I went to this corner of the music store, and I was just talking into these mics and recording it and then listening back. And when I did that, the SM58 sounded okay, but it sounded a little bit dull, like not as present or clear compared to the Sennheiser E835. And that's why I ended up buying 4 of the E835s. And also the output level was a bit higher as well. But so yeah, because that presence was, I think with an SM58 in a studio, you might have to add some high frequencies to make it a little more clear. So that's why I went with the Sennheiser.
Yeah, I tested the Sennheiser E835, and I noticed that it's a little bit more sensitive to plosives as well, though. That kind of puts me off a dynamic microphone. If it's going to be subject to a lot of plosives, it kind of makes me reluctant to use that guy.
Right.
And the 58 does a slightly better job at that.
Got it. Yeah, because, I mean, when people use that mic live, they don't even use any windscreen or pop filter, nothing. They just literally put their lips up to the mic and just yell into it.
Yeah.
All right. So the SM7B, I also like that mic a lot. I mean, I know there's 2 switches or a couple switches on the SM7B. Do you just keep the frequency flat there?
Yeah, I leave it in flat mode. It's just, to my ears, it sounds the best when it's neutral.
Cool. And so let's get into the cables then. You mentioned Mogami Cables, and 6 months ago, I finally got a couple of those and changed it up. So here's the question everyone's going to ask. Does it really make a difference to spend, $45 or $50 on a mic cable?
I'm going to say for most people just recording a podcast at home, no. It doesn't. I have heard almost 0 difference. After a lot of research, I found that the majority of people who get a benefit out of $50 or $100 Mogami cables, depending on the length, they get the benefit if they're out in the field running 100-foot-long cables to record an orchestra, or if they're constantly wrapping and unwrapping the cable, because they are built to a higher standard, so they'll withstand a lot of the stress that's put on them by constantly wrapping and unwrapping. and they also have better shielding inside the cable. So unless you're in a really RF interference heavy room or environment, I think you'll be fine with a $6 microphone cable, although you may have to replace them a couple of times when with the Mogami cables you wouldn't have to.
Right. And when I switched, I thought I did perceive a difference. I thought there was a little more high-end clarity. But I didn't A-B it. So I literally heard it the way it was, swapped out the cables to the new cables, and then I heard it the way it was with the new cables, and that was my reaction. But, that could have been, purely psychological as well, because you know how that happens. You know what happens in the studio. It's like, well, in the old days, it would be like, you'd be like, oh, can you add more low end to the bass? And the engineer would start turning up the low end on a channel. But the thing is, it wasn't the bass channel. He was he was adding more low end to like a guitar or something. And then the person who's listening goes, yeah, that's better. The bass sounds better. And it's like, yeah, no, you weren't doing anything to the bass. I think that that can happen. That happens in plugins as well. Like a plugin will be on bypass, and you'll be adjusting. You'll be adding high end or low end, and you'll be like, "Yeah, that sounds better." And then after a minute or two, you're like, "Oh wait, it's bypassed."
I think maybe I didn't notice any difference because I am running the SM7B, and there is no higher frequencies. So maybe that's why I didn't notice a boost in high frequency clarity.
That's interesting. And it kind of bugged me out too, because then my RE20, then it seemed to have more high end, and I was like, then I had to adjust my post-production, the EQ and stuff in post-production, which I don't use much, but I do tweak it because I tweak everything.
I'll have to test the cables on the RE20 and something like the TLM102 that's extended up through 20 kilohertz and see if I can hear anything. Yeah,
it's interesting. But I agree with you that for podcasting, not really necessary to spend a ton on cables, unless you make a great point about outdoors and long length as well, right? Because the length is probably the thing that affects it most, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially if you're doing an orchestra, you have 100, 200-foot cable run into the back of the auditorium. There's a lot of room for RF interference to come in there and noise to be introduced.
Right, and I wonder, I've never really done live sound, but I'm wondering if that 100 or 200-foot cable, is it usually carrying a mic level signal or a line level? Like, do they have a mixer right near the side of the stage where they sort of, preamp all the mics and then send it line level to the back of the venue? Or do they actually just plug in the mic and run the cable 200 feet?
I've never done live sound either. However, I think it could be line level, because a lot of situations like that, they have monitor mixers over to the side of the stage.
Right.
So I imagine they'd have to run all the microphones through preamps there. They may have to send the monitor mixer out to the main board. I'm not 100% sure, though, because I've never run live sound either.
Yeah, I think you're right, though. I think that sounds right. Line level for that long distance, because mic level is so low, it's hard to comprehend how weak of a signal that is going through the cable.
Yeah.
So, all right, then you got the CL-1, the Cloudlifter. Did you ever A/B that or review that against the Fethead?
Yeah, I actually just released a video maybe 2 months ago. I tested that and A/B'd it against the Fethead, the Radial Mic Boost, the Durham, Cathedral Pipes Durham, and the Simply Sound SS1. So there were 5 mic activators or preamps, whatever you want to call it. And of all of them, I think the Cloudlifter sounded the best. It provided the cleanest signal. And surprisingly, I wasn't expecting to find this, but a couple of them, the lower cost ones with not the Cathedral Pipes, the Simply Sound, kind of introduced some interference and made the signal sound worse, but you were getting a hotter signal out of it. So I did a A/B between 5 of them and found the CL-1 was my favorite.
Yeah, that's interesting, because it doesn't surprise me that the cheaper ones might not sound as good, because, again, you're working with such a low signal. It's so delicate, and the cleanliness and the clarity of the boost has to be has to be really good in order to be transparent, or else you're going to hear hums and stuff.
Yeah, especially with, I think it's negative 59 dB sensitivity. You're going to have a lot of noise floor issues if you don't have a clean signal.
Right. All right, then of course you got the DBX 286S channel strip. Now, that channel strip, as you, if you're listening, you might know, has obviously a mic preamp, but it also has a compressor, it has a gate, it has some tone controls. Do you use all the elements of the channel strip, or just or one?
I just use a couple. I just use very slight compression to try to keep the peaks in check, and then I use the gate a little bit. I don't like the fact that you don't have control of the tone. You just have a dial. Just turn it up or turn it down. I don't like that. If I was going to use those, I would like to have some control over the frequencies that were being affected and all of that, but you don't. So I just avoid that, and if I want to EQ anything, I'll do it in post.
Got it. So you don't add the low frequency and the high frequency on there. And yeah, when you were talking just before about the tone control, you're talking about the gate itself. There's no way to tweak the frequencies that the gate is listening to. It's just general level, all frequencies, right? Yeah,
the gate is, but I was mainly talking about the HF and LF detail.
Okay.
And then I don't really use the de-esser either. I skip past that. And if I hear anything that bugs my ears, I'll cut it in post. I don't like burning too much stuff into the actual track.
Right. Oh, which is, record it clean and clear, and then if you need to fix one or two little things later, it's easy. And I find with the DBX 286 channel strip that one of the ways, and you're not making this mistake, but one of the biggest mistakes that people make with that piece of gear is they add too much of that low frequency detail, the low frequencies. They turn it up and they're like, oh, I'm a big radio guy.
Yeah, they want to sound like Barry, but some people just can't do it.
Yeah, oh yeah.
There it is.
Oh, wait, I mean...
No way. You crazy?
They just can't.
Yeah, some people's voices, like my own, just will never sound like Barry, no matter how much low frequency detail I add to it.
But I did ask, I think it was on Twitter, I asked, and I think Travis Hill, Mr. Podcast Mike, I think he's the only one that responded, but I asked people, what microphone did I use to record Barry's voice? A little trivia question there.
Huh. I'm going to have to ask you off the air because I don't want you to give it away.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'll give you a couple guesses here, but I'll tell you what. We've already talked about it on this session.
Was it the RE20?
Nope.
The E835.
Oh, he nails it!
Got it. There we go.
You nailed
Sennheiser.
it. That's it. Yeah, and it was funny because Barry would come in and sit down and just we'd be talking. Hey, how you doing? Good. And I'd slowly bring a mic stand over, and I'd leave it 5-6 feet away, and then I'd bring a mic over and I'd put it on the mic clip, and then I'd wander away, and slowly I set it up, and then I he knew. I was like, Barry, I'm going to record you, but I said just ignore it, literally don't even think anything, and he didn't care. He was just the nicest guy. He just wanted to hang out and take a break and talk.
Does he have a voiceover career? Because he definitely should with a voice like that.
No, he doesn't. He's like there's 4 commercial buildings in this big parking lot, and he's the maintenance guy for all 4 buildings. So he just changes lights and does maintenance, and that's I know.
Barry, get on it.
I told him, I'm like, I told Barry, I'm like, look, Barry, can you come in on a Saturday? I literally told him, I'm like, look, I want to record you doing some stuff, and I want to pay you. So can you come in on a Saturday? I will pay you good money. And he just was he just didn't get it. He didn't.
It's just completely off his radar. He said, I don't care about that. That's not in my interest.
Yeah, and I would tell him, because we did a show, which actually we're just reviving, Social Media Unscrambled, was a show we did for years, and we're just reviving it now. And I actually had Barry say Social Media Unscrambled, and he actually said it so well, and that's actually the intro of that whole show. And people loved it, and people loved Barry, and that's where the Barry clips originated, was on that show, Social Media Unscrambled. And I would tell him, I'd be like, Barry, you're like a mini celebrity in the podcasting world. People love you. They love your voice. And he would just kind of laugh and go, like he really didn't get it. And he didn't even care.
Right.
Just a humble guy. I don't know.
Well, it's nice to have people like that are just humble and have this amazing gift. And they say, you know what? This is for me and me alone. You guys don't get this gift. You don't deserve it.
Totally. You know, all this talking about Barry, he's right here. Barry, do you have something to say? Oh, wait, he just slipped me a note. I'm reading it here. He says, I just looked at Ralph Rivera's new profile picture on LinkedIn. Barry, what did you think of that profile picture?
Something from out of ancient times. Big mouth. Lot of teeth.
All right, that was bad. All right, so now you got this AudioFuse, which I've never heard of. That's an audio interface?
Yeah, so Arturia is known for their keyboards. They do really great analog keyboard synths. And they just rolled out this higher-end interface. I think it retails for about $600 now. And it seems to be on the level as the U Audio stuff. I haven't used the U Audio stuff, but that's how they're marketing it. Very similar to that.
Got it.
But unlike the U Audio stuff, you have all the dials at your fingertips as opposed to digging through all this software menu nonsense, which I hate. It's just right there. All the controls. I can do it on the fly without having to pop up a piece of software.
Interesting. And U Audio is, of course, universal audio for listeners. And yeah, I just pulled up the AudioFuse online, and it says, advanced audio interface. And yeah, there's a lot of buttons and dials on the front of this thing.
Yeah, it can be overwhelming, but for podcasting, I don't use the majority of it, so it's not that overwhelming for me. It's overkill, I'll admit it. But I reviewed it, so I figured I have it, might as well use it.
Yeah, and if it's high quality, like the Universal Audio Apollo twins, stuff like that, then that's awesome. And there looks like there's 2 mic inputs, 2 XLR inputs, right?
Yeah, 2 XLR inputs, a stereo set of 6.3 millimeter on the back, and it has ADAT capability, so I think you can go up to 14 channels.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so it's a nifty little piece of gear.
That's cool. And so did you, obviously then, you've probably reviewed other audio interfaces, so this one won out, right?
Yeah, this was hands down my favorite. I've also done the Focusrite 1st gen and 2nd gen interfaces, the Steinbergs, a lot of Behringer, and then I've also done one PreSonus audio box, and then a couple of mixers as well.
Oh, USB mixers.
Yeah, USB mixers. I'm not a big fan of those because I don't think for a solo or dual person podcast, I think it's better to have individual channels rather than just a stereo mix down. So I steer clear of mixers for the most part.
Yeah, that's the big deal with USB mixers, and that's why people like us who kind of know a little bit more than the average person, we're always telling people to be careful, when you buy a USB mixer, because you might want to plug in 4 mics and record them separately, but most USB mixers don't let you do that. They're going to mix the 4 mics down to a stereo signal, and that's all you can record, which is nutty.
Yeah. It doesn't make sense. Zoom actually just released something called the L12, and that is a really cool piece of gear. It can do, I think it has 12 mic inputs or something like that. It could record them all separately. It can record a stereo signal as well. It can record to the device. It could send them all into the computer. It just does everything you could possibly think of. And it's, for the price, I don't think you can beat it if you need that many inputs.
Right, and it does that. It's called a Zoom LiveTrak L12. And does that record the 12 tracks right on the unit itself, right?
Yeah, you can record to an SD card,
right,
while you also send those tracks individually to your DAW.
Yeah, see, that's nice.
Yeah.
The only thing is the Zoom mic pre's. Are they? I mean, I know, like, I have a Zoom H6 and I like it, but then the folks from Sound Devices sent me the Mix Pre 6 to try out, and like clearly the Mix Pre 6 is like The mic pre's are just on another level.
76 dBs of gain before the fader. That's insane.
So,
but yeah, the Zoom devices, the Zoom H6 I have as well, and I did use that for a couple of years, but the preamps, they do get noisy once you get past 60 or 70%. And then I tried out the Zoom U44, which is just an audio interface, and the mic pre's on that seemed to be a lot quieter than the H6. So they may have rolled out an updated preamp for their devices.
Okay, and then you use a Mac computer. What kind of Mac?
I'm currently running into a Mac Mini, just waiting until they release an updated Mac Pro. But Apple is just stringing us along. They are trolling us, I swear. But I'm running a Mac Mini, and then that's recording into Logic Pro.
Logic Pro 10. All right, so has that been your DAW for a while now?
Yeah, so I can't even remember the first DAW that I used. It was 2003 or 2004 on a Windows machine. It may have been Cakewalk. But then in 2006, I picked up a Mac and tried out GarageBand, and that just blew my mind. And then after recording into that, just music, goofing around, I finally sprung and purchased Logic Pro maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and I haven't looked back. I've tried Pro Tools. I'm personally not a big fan of it. It was confusing to me. I like how straightforward and intuitive Logic Pro is, even if you do lose some of the versatility or power that you would get out of Pro Tools.
Now, in Logic Pro, obviously there's the multi-track view where you can see, let's say you have 5 or 6 tracks and you see them all, going across the screen. Can you also do like detailed stereo editing within Logic Pro 10?
I haven't done too much stereo editing. Are you talking about importing like a pre-mixed song and then diving into that?
Yeah, something like that, like a stereo, like because what I do in my workflow is I use Reaper for my DAW and I mix it down to stereo, and then I open that stereo file in SoundForge Pro, and that's where I do my detailed editing. So that's like where I remove ums and ahs and I tighten up the spaces and I clean up the end and the beginning, and that's like my detailed editing. So, and I know in Adobe Audition has both. It has the multi-track view and like a detailed editing view. I forget what they call it. It's a waveform view or something like that.
Well, you can zoom in really, really close on this. You can actually see the wave forms. So if you needed to get really granular and into the detail, you could do that on this and make sure you don't have any clicks while you're piecing together a couple of segments.
Yeah, and I would prefer that, actually. And maybe, I don't know, I know technically I could do it in Reaper, because I think in Reaper you can zoom in pretty far, and you can do ripple edits, which would just, when you cut out part of one track, it'll move all the tracks over so everything stays in sync. And I in theory I would prefer that, because then I can just do all my editing and tightening up and mixing in one place, and then when I render it, it's pretty much done. But there's something about mixing it out of the DAW and then opening it in a stereo editor. It's almost like seeing it again, almost like seeing it for the first time. And then, and a lot of times when I mix it out of the DAW, I'll open it up in SoundForge Pro, and then I'll realize that, the one voice is a little bit lower than the other one. So literally I'll go back to Reaper and I'll adjust it, and then I'll re-render it. So sometimes I do that multiple times on episodes, which is kind of annoying, but me, I'm crazy. I got to get the balance right, especially when it's different types of voices. Like one guy's on the phone and one guy's on a RE20. It's like, it's not easy to balance always.
Yeah, I have a similar workflow. I'll record and edit and mix in Logic Pro. Then I have to export it and edit because my podcast also has a video element. So I will actually sync it up in Final Cut Pro, and then that gives me a chance to go over the audio again and listen throughout the entire thing for a second or third time. And then I have to export that video, drag that into Logic Pro, and then export that as an MP3 for publishing to the RSS. So it's sometimes it gets to be a pain in the butt and monotonous, but it gives you a lot of chances to catch any mistakes that you missed.
Right. which I really like. I love that. I love when I catch something that's not right, because sometimes there'll be like a blatant mistake. Like sometimes you'll want to cut a part out and then you leave it in. Like there's been actually at least one session of this show where I forgot to clean up the end. So when the song started playing at the end, you still heard me and the guest talking like, "Hey, that was a good interview, man. Thanks, man." Like you heard that under the music. Someone sent me a note. They're like, "Dude, you might want to." So I went back.
Hopefully you didn't say anything incriminating.
Oh, I didn't even think of that, but yeah, it's usually not anything. Yeah, okay, I didn't want to talk about that guy. What an a-hole. No, we didn't say anything like that.
Oh, God.
That would have been funny. All right, so in Logic Pro, when you're kind of doing your post-production, that's where you add some compression typically?
Yeah. A couple of months ago, I picked up a bunch of Waves plugins, and I'll just throw our compressor on there. I'll try to get maybe 3 to 6 dBs of compression. I don't overdo it. I like the more natural sound. I just like trying to tighten it up a little bit. But I'm very subtle with my effects and processing.
Which is good, but yeah, 3 to 6 dB of compression, even though it's kind of subtle, in the overall perception of the listener, it really helps a lot. It really does.
Yeah, and on the DBX, the majority of the time the compressor is off. It's just when I get loud that I'll get 3 to 6 dBs there as well. It's the majority of the time the compressor's not doing a darn thing.
Yeah, which is good. That means you're using it the right way, and then that means you're not compressing it too much and then bringing up all the noise floor, right? So
yeah.
All right, and then you take it out of Logic Pro at -16 LUFS. You can actually tell Logic Pro, hey, output this at -16?
No, so I'll add a limiter, and I will bring it up, which is, again, just a couple dBs, and they have a metering system, a loudness meter, that will tell you in LUFS. So I just mastered that. I'll play it all the way through, make sure, if it's not exactly -16, I don't sweat it. If it's -15.8, I'm fine with that. But I just actually monitor the loudness meter.
That's right. The loudness police are not going to knock on your door and be like, "Dude, -15.8, you're a maniac."
Yeah. This isn't broadcast television.
All right, so yeah, you put it to -16, and so wait, when you're in Logic Pro though, obviously when you record your video, and then when you add your music, you kind of already have that in like a template in Logic Pro?
So I actually run my iPad into the Arturia AudioFuse, and I play the music live there. So I'm recording 2 channels into Logic Pro.
Okay, so you play your voice and the music. Wait, that would mean that the music is mono.
No, I can have a mono track and a stereo track in Logic.
Got it. And you're running your iPad or whatever into the back of the
you got it, exactly.
Yeah, okay. That makes sense. Yeah, a lot of that's pretty cool. So, right, so it's an Arturia AudioFuse, and you obviously has 2 XLR inputs for 2 XLR mics, and then it also has a stereo input on the back.
Exactly, yeah.
Cool, yeah, that's perfect. All right, and then, wait, what Waves plugins do you use sometimes?
Mainly, I just use our compressor. For Black Friday, I did pick up their D-Breath and D-Click plugins. I've only used the D-Breath once, and I haven't done much with the D-Clicker. And I also actually picked up Isotope, which was on sale for $30 as opposed to $130. So I'm going to be testing those out, and maybe I'll do an A/B to see what kind of differences there are between the noise removal. Oh, I've also used, what is it? Z-Noise? Is that a Waves plugin called Z-Noise, which actually gets a sound signature of the noise. You just need a couple of seconds where you're not talking, and if you have a really noisy recording, it'll just wipe all that out.
Yeah, that's cool. That'd be cool if you kind of A/B the iZotope processing with some of the Waves processing. That would be a cool video.
Yeah, because Waves they are expensive. I'll only buy them on sale.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I just bought a few more Waves. I buy a lot of Wave stuff. I have a bunch of stuff. And I love it and I use it, and it's, they're tools, right? If you're a professional, okay, maybe I have a few too many tools, but they're still my tools.
Exactly.
I mean, that's how, just if you're out there, that's how you justify it to your spouse, by the way.
This is part of my job. This is my job. You gotta let me.
Honey, I need to buy a couple things for work.
How much?
No, and then you could just say, well, look, normally it's $59,000, but today it's just $300, so I'm gonna buy it.
Exactly.
She'll be like, oh, great.
You're saving money.
Wait, so which isotope did you get? Was it like Elements or something?
It was, let me see. Let me pop this open. I haven't used it yet. Isotope RX6. Isotope RX6, and it was $30 as opposed to $130.
That doesn't sound right. Maybe it's RX6 Elements or something, but RX6.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay.
It only came with 4 different plugins: a denoise, a dehum, a declip, and a declick.
Got it. Yeah, so those are from the RX6, but yeah, that's cool. That's good. Yeah. I can't wait to hear your A/Bing of them. That's going to be so cool.
Yeah, that'll be fascinating.
Yeah, really, like for real. So now, do you ever? We're going to talk about the production of the videos and the reviews that you do and all that. I want to talk about that, your process and workflow for that. But do you do any live streaming? For some reason, I've gotten the live streaming bug, and I haven't really done any yet, but I really want to. Have you done any?
I have for a couple videos, and then I realized that the chat is just unbearable at times. So I went back to just, for all my FAQs, I'll just take the questions, sort through them, and only answer a question once, as opposed to in a live stream where you just get a dozen of the same question.
Right.
So I have done it in the past, but I've moved back to just actually pre-recording all my videos.
Okay. Yeah, so I've been into, probably for about the past year, I've had a chess.com account, so I play some chess, just here and there. I'm not good, but I just like it.
I'm going to call you Bobby Fischer.
Oh my God. Hey, that reminds me. We went out to breakfast this morning, and the total for the bill after tax was $27.80, and that was actually Bobby Fischer's rating at the end of his career when he disappeared. Anyway, who would know that but, a chess player? No, but so
you got it, a nerd.
On chess.com, they do a lot of streaming, and they do it on twitch.tv. You've heard of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, twitch.tv. It's this platform for gamers, but it's all live streaming. And and then of course the ones that are streamed live are sort of archived there as well, but it's mainly for live streaming for games and stuff. And so this guy, Danny Wrench on chess.com, he streams a couple different shows, and he, this and that. And I'm like, it's just so cool. Streaming is so cool when you can have different things on the screen and different people's heads on the screen, and then you can share your desktop, and you can sort of, and I just think it's fascinating. But, it reminds me of back when we were doing Social Media Unscrambled live, believe it or not. And it was an audio podcast, but we did it live, so you could consider it, internet radio, for the live part. And it was like, it's so hard to get people to listen live. It really is, right?
It's really difficult, especially on Twitch, unless you're playing something like, I don't know if you're much of a gamer, but PUBG, PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds, is huge. And it seems like that's the only way you can get viewers on Twitch at this point. So maybe if you did a PUBG themed chess match, maybe you could play some famous PUBG players. I don't know, but that may help bring on some other gamers to play chess with you.
No, I just thought of it. And actually I messaged Ralph M. Rivera about this too. I wanted to stream on Twitch and say podcasters playing chess. And just have different podcasters come on and play each other but that would be a mess. But maybe podcasters play gamers. Ooh.
Yeah, that would be a good way to, I don't know if you've ever watched Hot Ones on YouTube, but they interview somebody as they eat progressively hotter wings. And as they get to the insane hot, their guard goes down.
Oh.
So if you're playing chess with somebody, they wouldn't be able to think, well, how am I answering this question? Am I presenting myself properly? You could get them to drop their guard by thinking about what their next move will be.
Dude, that's brilliant. Interview them while playing chess. Oh, that'd be a mess.
Yeah.
Wow.
I support this.
That sounds like chess boxing. Do you ever hear of that sport?
No.
Chess boxing. They'll play chess for 5 minutes and then in a boxing ring, and then they'll take the board off and then they'll box for 5 minutes and then they'll bring the board back in. They sit down again and play chess.
Oh, that's amazing.
In the UK.
Oh, wow. Leave it to those folks over across the pond. Those
nutters.
It's
so cool. All right, so you're reviewing tons of stuff, and again, if you're listening, which you are listening because if you hear me now, go to Podcastage on YouTube. Podcastage. There's how many videos do you have total now? Jeez.
I think it's 280 or 290. We're closing in on 300.
Oh my! I can't. That's awesome, dude. And because it's not just like the reason most people are into podcasting or host a podcast show is because it's fairly easy. You just turn on a mic, you record some audio, and of course you got to do it right. But I don't know. It seems to me like reviewing equipment and doing video and taking a bunch of different shots and samples and then having to put it all together. To me that's a major production. Do you consider it that?
When I initially started, it was more difficult. I've kind of worked out a process to limit the amount of time it takes. Now it'll take 4 or 5 hours to do a review and film it, record it, edit it, upload it, do all the social media stuff associated with it.
Okay.
To some people, that may seem like a big process for a 4 or 5 minute video. But for me, it doesn't seem like that because I've spent 12 hours doing a 5-minute video. So I know how bad it can be. Now it doesn't seem too intense.
Okay, so let's take us through the process. What's the last thing you reviewed?
The last thing that I reviewed, oh my God, what was it?
Or anything. Just use an example.
I just reviewed the Yamaha AG03, which is a USB mixer, but it's just a solo XLR input USB mixer. And that one took quite a bit longer because that one has a lot of features on it. It has a lot of stuff going on. So that one maybe took 8 to 10 hours with all of the B-roll and the filming tests and recording tests of all the different features. Oh, well, what happens if you push this button? How does the compression sound? All this stuff. So that one took quite a bit longer. And the way that I'll do it, I guess I'll just walk you through step by step.
Perfect.
I will go ahead, I'll get the piece of gear, I'll test it and play around with it for just a day on my own so I can get a good understanding of it. If it's a more complicated piece of gear like that mixer, or if it's a higher end piece of gear like the RE20, which I've been testing for about a month at this point. If it's something like that, I'll test it for a couple of weeks so I can actually wrap my head around it and get a good opinion of it. Then I will do the unboxing, I guess, because during the video, I'll show you what comes in the package. I'll film all that stuff.
Got it.
And then I will film the B-roll. And then I will actually record all the demonstrations, all the testing. And then I'll pull all the footage in, throw it into Final Cut Pro, and sync up all the audio, edit it, then export it, then review it. And then if it's good, then I'll upload it. If I notice any issues, then I'll re-edit it and re-export it and then upload it. It can be tedious at times, but for the most part, it's fun.
Okay, and how many cameras do you use?
I just use 2. So I have one that I use for my overhead looking down at, so when I'm doing a demo or an unboxing, I'll use that camera. And then my main camera, where I use for what some people call a face cam, is a Canon T6i.
Okay, so you got 2 cameras. Then when you bring it in all into Final Cut Pro, do you process the audio within Final Cut Pro, or do you bring it somewhere else?
I actually don't do any processing on the reviews because processing is so subjective that I don't want to add my flavor to it. I want people to know exactly how the piece of gear is going to sound when they pull it out of the box. Because I've heard some reviews where it just sounds amazing, and then I've tested it and thought, this sounds like garbage. I wonder what kind of processing they did. So I want people to know exactly what they're getting when they buy a piece of gear that I review.
Got it. But just when the camera's on you and you're looking into the camera and talking to me, the viewer, and let's say you're reviewing a mixer, but you're talking, well, I guess you would be talking through the mixer.
Yeah. So
Got it.
That's something that I noticed was missing, and I started, when I'm reviewing a piece of gear, I'm using that piece of gear. So when I reviewed the SM7B, the entire video was recorded with the SM7B rather than doing 10 minutes of unboxing with the camera's microphone and then a 30-second demo.
Right. Oh, that makes sense. And you know what I just remembered? You recently did a review of, was it the smallest microphone in the world?
What are the smallest condenser microphones? Yeah.
Dude, that was some serious entertainment. Seriously, if you're listening, go to Podcastage on YouTube and find that, the smallest microphone ever. It's like as half the size of your thumb.
Yeah, it is tiny. It could be used for Barbies or something.
Wow. It was so cool.
It sounded surprisingly good. There were some grounding issues, but besides that, for a miniature microphone that cost $3 on eBay, I couldn't complain. I couldn't fault it.
Dude, all I remember is you just holding it in between two fingers and like kind of whipping it around and going, see, this thing is so small, but it was crazy. That's a great video. I might have to embed that one in in this post.
Yeah, that was a fun one to do because a lot of my videos are very similar. It was nice to break the routine with something goofy like that.
Yeah, that was good. All right, so then in Final Cut Pro, do you, like, for a 5-minute video, how much raw video do you shoot?
There will be between 30 minutes to an hour because I am terrible at speaking.
Oh.
That's something as a podcaster. I'll do a lot of editing for my videos because I've also found issues on YouTube where I think people are just too long-winded. So I will try to be as succinct as possible. And if I get too rambly, probably like I am getting on this podcast, I'll just chop myself off in the video and just try to make it as short as possible.
Yeah, I do like the pacing of your videos is nice. It's not too fast, but it moves, and that's how you have to be these days, right? You got to move. You can't, you can't lag and just be boring at all, right?
Yeah. There was, I think it was Adam Savage. I heard him say that if somebody's going to watch your video, they know within the first 5 or 10 seconds. So that first 5 or 10 seconds needs to be captivating, and you need to keep it moving because people have such short attention spans now. You need to make it consumable. If you just ramble for 30 minutes about a mixer, very few people are going to watch that. If you do it in 3 minutes, you're going to get a lot higher completion rate. A lot more people are going to watch it from beginning to end because it's only 3 minutes. They have time to watch that. But 30 minutes, I'm not sure about that.
Totally. All right. And then, of course, what resolution video are you doing everything in?
I'm just doing 1080p, and okay. I know a lot of people are making the move to 4K, but for me, I don't see a point to do that, especially with everything going on in the FCC and all these ISPs who are initializing data caps. I don't think there's a big enough difference between 1080p and 4K. I don't think a lot of consumers would say, I can justify spending that extra data cap for just a marginally better viewing experience.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, 1080p is very good.
Yeah, it really is.
I mean,
my TV,
wow.
My monitors, everything is still 1080p, and I don't see much benefit from 4K. Sure, it looks beautiful.
And I think in the analogy in audio is this whole, 24 or even 32-bit 96 kilohertz sample rate, like that. Sometimes nowadays when they record music in a music studio, that's what they do. But for a podcast, you don't need that at all. I mean, 24-bit 48 kilohertz is that's even way more than you need, but it's nice,
Yeah, it's a bit overkill, I think, at some point.
Yeah, what resolution do you record audio at?
I do 24 at 48.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, 4K video. So anyway, back to video. It's funny. I kind of want to get a bigger TV. My wife and I want to get it, but I'm saying that my wife and I want to get a bigger TV. But we're waiting because now they got the 4K thing, and it's like, you know what? By the time I buy something, then the next thing's going to come out and whatever.
Yeah, it's going to be outdated in 6 months anyways. Just wait until CES. They'll release the newer models, and you can buy a new one for $200.
By the way, I just remembered we were talking about Macs before. I'm actually going to be pricing out a iMac Pro, we're recording this on December 2nd, 2017. And that December is when the iMac Pro is supposed to come out, and it's really expensive. And I don't know if I would going to get it, but I kind of want to check it out. So I'm going to go to the Apple Store later today. That's why I'm bringing it up.
I feel for you. That's gonna be an expensive purchase, but it's work related. So your wife should approve it, right?
Thank you. Wow, Barry, you're okay with it, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, he loves it.
Are you gonna buy Barry a Mac as well?
Barry, do you want your own Mac?
No way. You crazy?
Oh, right. Yeah, because
Barry, you just saved him a bunch of money.
Hold on, I'm looking for a clip to play. Dang it. Sometimes I'm not so quick on the draw. Well, anyway, Barry, the iMac Pro, Barry, the base price is $5,000, and if you upgrade everything, it might come close to $10,000 for a computer. What do you think about that, Barry?
Wow, man. Wow.
Do you think it's smart?
Senseless.
Oh, dude.
Barry sounds like a Windows user.
Oh my God. All right. Well, look, Bandrew Scott, what have we not talked about? I mean, you are so into audio and video and production. What have we not talked about that you're doing over there?
My main focus really is the Podcastage YouTube channel. I try to help people get the information they need. On the side, I podcast every week talking about tech. I'll play around with music. I used to have this grand idea that I would be a famous musician, and now I just do it for fun. I just record songs. I don't release them. It's just something fun to pass the time. But other than that, I don't do much. I work a full-time job still. This isn't my main focus.
Yet,
yeah. but yeah, I don't have too much else going on. Just the YouTube channel. That takes up the majority of my free time.
And when do you post the video as a podcast or just the audio?
For the actual podcast, I'll post that to a separate channel, Geeks Rising, and I'll release it as the Bandrew Says Podcast. For the review videos, that is strictly on YouTube. Although I have been considering releasing a lossless audio file so people can hear it without all of YouTube's awful compression degrading the quality.
Oh, that's smart. Like in the description, you can have a little link and say, here, download the real audio.
Yeah, and I know Travis Hill does that on Podcast Mike. On his website, he has the lossless files so you can download those.
Cool. So when the podcast itself, then, that goes through the RSS feed is audio only.
Correct, yeah. Yeah, I don't want to pay for hosting video files. I'm not that crazy.
That's true. See, that's why I'm bringing it up, because if you're making videos, you could put the videos through an RSS feed and it would be a video podcast. And that's like so not popular these days because of YouTube. It's just like, just put it on YouTube. It's way easier.
Exactly. I'll give up a couple of rights just to not pay that bill every month.
Yeah, because that's the thing. Like an audio file is one thing, but a video file, hello.
Yeah, when I'm uploading, it's for a 5-minute video, we're looking at half a gig, sometimes a gig. And the podcast for 30 minutes of video, we're looking at 2.5 gigs, 3 gigs. So every download, that would be a nightmare.
Wow. Yeah, you can't do that. That's why no one's really doing video podcasts like that now. Obviously, because they just do the audio podcast and then they put the video up on YouTube and Facebook. You're not putting videos on Facebook?
No, I'm a bit too paranoid to use Facebook much. I don't like them tracking me as much. I know Google tracks me also, but I trust Google a little bit more. I think Facebook is out to get us.
You might be right. I don't know.
I've deleted all my accounts except for one because I still need to post links to the videos, but I don't upload it to Facebook. Maybe I should, though. Because Facebook is rolling out a lot of features trying to bring people in to push video.
Yeah, that's what I heard is like, oh, if you upload video directly to Facebook, then they love that and they'll like make more people see it or something.
Yeah, it may take a bit of extra time because I've noticed a lot of the popular videos on Facebook have those black bars on the top and bottom, and they add the subtitles.
Oh yeah.
So
that is so handy too.
Yeah. I used to, when I was frequenting Facebook, I would always get sucked in by that. So maybe I should do that with my reviews and podcasts. But
you're right, but that would take a lot longer. Although there must be something in Final Cut Pro that would make it easier to put the text on the bottom.
Yeah, there's got to be some plugin that will automatically subtitle your videos.
Right, and then allow you to go in and edit the words if it gets the words wrong.
Yeah.
Type thing.
Yeah, that would be something to look into.
Huh.
I'll become part of the problem. I'll help people get stuck in the Facebook black hole.
All right, Bandrew, this has been awesome, man. I'm so happy to finally have you on the show. Everyone, of course, go to Podcastage on YouTube, and it's just and also comment. Comment to Bandrew, and you know what? If you just want to, pretend to be a troll at first, go ahead. That'll get his attention, maybe. I don't know.
I try not to engage with trolls, so if you start trolling me, I'll just ignore you.
All right. Then again, so don't do that. You know what? Just give him a message from Barry. Give him a in the comments of his videos.
I will give you a heart and a pin if you leave me a
What's a pin?
So if you pin a comment on YouTube, that's the first comment that somebody will see when they scroll through there. So if you give me a in quotes, and then quote it or source it to Barry, I will totally pin that.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. All right, well, this has been an awesome session. I really appreciate you, Bandrew, sharing all your workflow and processes in terms of your podcast and even the video review productions. Again, Podcastage on YouTube, and check out podcastengineeringschool.com for all our previous sessions and all kinds of other good stuff. And of course, Podcast Engineering School. So Bandrew, you have to yell, sound great.
I got it.
Right? You do it. Okay. It's getting close. Ready? All right. Let's do sound great.
Walk away from me, well, and you can't play that part so well. Why do you playing out on me now? You like to lose control, well, it's quite a feeling, isn't it? Let them float and drift in time now. You tell me that you found something better. How should I respond to that? It's a lie. I don't wanna hear it. What do you want me to say? It's a lie. I don't wanna hear it. You react some empathy. You change your attitude, well, you say I just don't get it now. You say your eyes so far away now. Gave up on me, well, so change your game and give away. Say I wouldn't understand now. You tell me that you found something better. How should I respond to that? Oh yeah, I say now, it's a lie. I don't wanna hear it. What do you want me to say? It's a lie. I don't wanna hear it. You react so angry. I want you to know you will never always be true. I've gone over all we've been through. Doesn't seem that long a time now. Things we did still hold that meaning. And does it mean it's still the same? You're should I respond to that? Oh yeah, I